Hello, welcome to the virtual gratitude retreat for May. Again, a beautiful month has autumned into our lives, and if you're in the northern hemispheres, spring is upon you, and that brings along with it all kinds of adventures. Now, I know we are snuggling up here and trying to stay warm by either lighting the fires and snuggling under blankets and having nice hot drinks. But if you are celebrating spring at this time, then you'll still be able to create and have fun and enjoy yourself, and also be part of, let me just make sure we've got all of that. All right, all of those are ready, and I'm not going to take much longer. I'll just tell you what's in front of me, my sketchbook journal. I also have little fairy doors or things that we could play with. I have my water brushes. I, of course, have my candle. I have my small watercolor palette. I have a few coloring pencils, not too many, a little bit of green, pink, yellow, purples, and blues, just to make a good start. And I also have the May I Keep Growing printable. This is a document you can print for your own collage work. It's not a free document, but tonight I am sharing this page. When it's open completely, it's a full spread of pictures I shared and painted while going on a wandering journey in the Botanical Gardens. And that's also where I painted this peacock. So if you've got your things ready and you've got your glue, oh yes, that's another thing on the table. There's Mod Podge and a bit of smelly glue and scissors, of course, and water for the watercolors. And I also have my last little bits of Mother's Day flowers that are still left over, just to make a little happy corner here. Now, at this stage, I think we can flip the camera over just so that you have more visibility of what's happening on the table instead of just having my face in your face. So you can see and start to ease into tonight's session. So on the table, we have, like I said, the May I Keep Growing sketchbook journal. So this is a complete journal that you can print yourself and then bind into a pretty hand-bound journal. It doesn't have to be difficult. This one, for example, I used as the outer cover for this sketchbook journal. And there's lots of things happening in here that also require some collage. If you've got a water brush, you could also use your water brush. This one is empty, no water in it, but it was here on the side, so I'm just going to stack it there with my other watercolor brushes. Then there is a little floral, another floral, little place for you to layer and write, and then a little geometric piece, another double spread. You also have the page of faces and eyes. And of course, this one we did a couple of weeks ago. that you only had access to those flowers as a download. But in this journal, I'm giving you both sides of that project we created, then another floral. And this is the one I gave you to download this week for this session. And these are just little flowers and trees and plants I saw at our own botanical gardens that I'd like to play with tonight and just create little imaginary scenes and layer it into collage, or maybe even redraw them a little bit and reimagine them depending on where the vibe takes us. So earlier today, someone asked me if I ever painted birds, and the answer is yes. I actually paint and draw a lot of birds. For example, this one was done with coloring pencils on top of brown paper, and I did that while still learning how to layer coloring pencils. Then this I did during a short course for hatching, and this was in 2019. Some doves, if that's a dove or a magpie, what it is. I know this is a dove. That could be a magpie or some other bird. But anyway, these are just a few of the bird drawings and things I've done before. Painting wise, I love painting flamingos. And yes, that all comes together so nicely if you know the basic shapes and just build on that. So let's put the peacock back in there. This one is pansies, both sides. So when you print this out, it will be a complete A4 like that, and you can use them as is, as full pages, or you can fold them in half to build your little journal. This one is particularly beautiful, and I love how these flowers turned out, because that was in a time when I was struggling to loosen up. But after this session, I just felt there was this eureka moment where I realized that the loose versions of the watercolor and the art practices is what I was after. And you know, when you have that one piece, it's almost like you striving to do that again and again and again. Oh, I see two more people join. Hello, hello, hello. So glad you're here. All right, and then bears. Lovely blue flowers. So I'm already thinking about the I don't know, the practices we're going to do for tonight. Little food for thought. Self-compassion, self-care, self-praise, and self-love are not bad traits. They are some of the best traits to have, and we owe it to ourselves to be accepting of whom we are so that we can become better in the process. And that's the bottom line here, is the practice is what's going to make you better and better. We cannot expect to improve until we let ourselves practice. And that practice happens, in our instance, inside a sketchbook. Now, I'm not feeling a specific pull to something exact, but I'm kind of wondering what a fantasy scene would look like if we had to recreate a spread based on the botanical images of this page I shared. And this one specifically is named, was it to embody imperfection? Yeah. And to know that it's those imperfections that really help us build and create something spectacular. Now, let's do something where we can warm up. And when I say warm up, you could literally have color pencil markings in the sense where you are matching the colors and just warming up your hand and creating a feeling for what we are about to do. And in that same process, you could also start to think about the things you are grateful for and build on those ideas. It doesn't have to come to you immediately. It can build as the session goes along. But we are here, after all, for the virtual gratitude retreat. And that is just a little reminder for yourself to be grateful for the place you are at in your life at this stage, whether that is somewhere you expect it to be, somewhere where you wish to be. And if you are hoping to be somewhere else, that you also not forget that where you are now is exactly where you need to be to experience this whole development of what is coming next. Now, you could easily just stick to the coloring pencils, but I'm also going to wet my watercolor palette here. Let's move that up and bring the paint over to play alongside our little space here. So in here, I still have some essential oil with water, just regular water. There are no additives and things to help the essential oil melt. So every time before I spritz, I literally have to make sure I shake it up well. So because I might not have these exact colors in my watercolor palette, I can now go and prepare those colors and see what I could mix together to get there. So for that deeper, warmer yellow, that one didn't hit the mark, but I have a suspicion that there's some lime green in there, and that is giving us a false yellow there. But I'm not unhappy about it. It could fit in anywhere here in some of those. And maybe as a startup, before I just rinse the color out of my brush, is maybe to take a little bit of that color and see if I can imitate some of these marks. Just as a warm-up, and see where it goes, what I feel about the marks I am making, if it needs adjustment, a little bit of brown in there. Let's see if we can get to that color. Now, any one of these, if you are a designer or you create elements for future use from your sketchbooks, these could come in very handy as they become part of your portfolio. and the things you are capable of doing. I even like just making those brush marks to see what they look like. And at least 4 of those look like little hearts. And I've got a little thing where I try and spot hearts throughout my day. And I'm always surprised at where they pop up. Right, maybe try a little green mix now. And I do want to encourage you to try mixing up greens with interesting colors instead of just blue and yellow. So what I have here is a little bit of indigo, dark brown, and let's go for that ochre. See what happens. So that's not blue enough. So let's add some ultramarine. We go back into that yellow ochre. Oh, that's a delicious dark, dark, dark green. So that one started out with indigo. Then I added some brown. And then I added yellow ochre. And then we realized that's not going green, so we added ultramarine. And then more indigo. And look at that. Even that mix gave me another type of green. So I think I'd better make a physical notation of that color mix there. So that was brown, a bit of indigo, which looks a lot like neutral tint, and then ultramarine with a little bit of yellow ochre. And all of those mixed together gave me this green. Beautiful. Okay. And I think for that one, we might have added a slightly more saturated blue, maybe more of that definitely a cooler green. I like that. So that one we didn't put brown in, but we used that ultramarine, we used the indigo, and again that ochre, and all of them came together to give me this beautiful green, cool green. Now, how about we try one of those large leaves, and see if we could make it move on this paper. I know this isn't watercolor paper, but it could possibly move a little more than we think. And now in this case, we need that lime green. So just add a little bit of the lime green, and in that one added a little bit more of the yellow. So a big old heart shape, nice and wet. And you know, with watercolor, the biggest secret is wet. The more water you have, the more wetness you add, the more detail and structure you'll be able to pull out of your watercolors. Now, that is fairly wet. And if you could see, let me lift this up and show you. Can you see that gloss on that page? It's even starting to warp. Now that's exactly what you are looking for a wet in wet technique. And that wet in wet technique is going to give you the portability for the pigment to move. Without that water, without that puddling, the pigment has nowhere to go. Now I'm also going to dunk in some of our darker colors now. And even if you just make a dot, that will move into the water and not be a dot by the time it has dried. And if you feel there's too much moisture, you can just take your tissue paper and blot out some of that. You could also use a dried off brush and slurp it up. So I always encourage them to go, you know. It really helps if you make that slurpy sound, and it keeps it fun, of course. So I'm going to dunk in a little bit of that yellow ochre and give it some movement. Oh, that's a bit too much. I don't want that big old yellow stripe there. But I'm not going to fiddle with it now. I'm just going to create another leaf. And this time, not do that again. So let's create that leaf once more. Nice big heart. And you know, I think one of the things I am most grateful for this time of the year is those autumn days where it's sunny enough to go outside for a walk, but cool enough not to feel the blazing sun, and just appreciate what we have around us. Oh, that looks so much better. How about a branch there? So we'll, oh, the stem. All right. So let's try. So see this overlap here. That is one leaf in front of another leaf. Now, if you wanted to show a leaf behind that leaf, you would let that dry first and then paint the other leaf in behind. Or you could paint that shape as an entire shape. So let's say you wanted to paint that, you'll paint that entire shape, including the leaf you want to bring in. Fill it all with the same color. That goes behind and connects to that stem like that. That one goes there. Then this one continues behind there. Okay, so that is now a complete shape of just these two leaves, that one and that one. Now, while I'm busy there and I have that color, and while it's all drying, I can add detail to the top one because none of those are going to touch this outer edge. So I could go in and I could add in my ridges and my textures and all the little bits that could identify that specific plant. Give it some great identifiers. Play a little bit with some color, because some colors will push and others will pull. And when that happens is the watercolor awakens to its full potential. Right. Now, that is damp now. So let me just show you that part. And what I mean with damp is it doesn't have that glossy wetness like the middle part. Can you see that that's matte? It's not glossy and it's not wet. So how we are going to fix the shape in there now, because that leaf is behind, so we need to darken that up. Now we could wait until it is completely dry and go in with the coloring pencils and add layers, or we could simply use our darker color mixes and add a single layer of color into that to now define the top leaf. So you'll see that mark there. So that is there. Still a little bit damp, but we can start to work in that layer and let the top leaf pop. Oh, I hope you can't hear my tummy rumbling. And then that one can have that shape. So this is how we do negative painting in watercolors. I'm just going to take some of that dampness off there and just define it better. So that top leaf is dry in that section and the bottom leaf is now wet. So that's that cut in there, right over there. And that is that one there. And that's how you can use a single shape with layered colors on top to define a subject or an object. And now I'm going in with a third layer of color while that is still sort of wet and damp, that darker shade, just to bring in those final details. Now, these mindful practices could take you anything from 5 minutes per little section, and you could leave your book and your supplies and everything on your table or next to your bedside table or a little spot on your dining room table and come to that every single night. You could practice color mixing, you could practice techniques, you can go along and pick up little things and try and paint them. And if they don't work out, just move on to the next one and the next one and the next one. Because I can promise you, the more practices you get in, the more you will get better and the faster you will get better. You will not get better by trying to do one thing perfect. You will get better faster by creating more mistakes. They call it failing fast. So if you fail fast, you can really pick up the pieces and get back together with this whole process of trying, seeing what didn't work, and then trying again. And let the accident happen, let the mistake happen, let the thing go wrong so that you can learn from that mistake and make it better and better next time. So I'm going to continue this session until we have to say goodbye by creating a little scene that I will layer in with some of my collage elements later. But I have learned so much already. And I hope this little download page has given you a reason to play with colors and to make more and more mistakes so that you can also progress a little bit faster. So let's see what's going to happen on this page while I play some background music and let you enjoy the final couple of minutes. I will also show some reference images of a walk we did in the Botanical Gardens last year during May, and it popped up as a memory and served as inspiration for tonight's video. Well, that was a really interesting session. I'm pretty sure you enjoyed creating greens, playing with the leaves, and also discovering an imaginary scene that you could now go back in and layer all those things in that you learned to play with and discover tonight. May you have a beautiful rest of May and start June refreshed and happy and mindfully aware of your own creativity. Thank you for being here. I have had so much fun and I really appreciate your participation. Now, if you are looking for this journal, you can always go and print it out. It's not just for May, it is for all time. And you may keep growing and build on your own creative practices. I cannot wait to see you in the next video.